Okay, let's dive right in. Those official vSphere administration guides, wow, they're powerful, but let's be honest, they're not exactly light reading. So for this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that density to pull out the practical, day-to-day stuff you really need. Think of this as turning that massive manual into a map you can actually use.
So here's the map for our journey. We'll start with the absolute basics, the fundamental building block. Then we'll get our hands dirty, walking through how you bring a VM to life, tune its engine, and use the tools you need every day. And we'll wrap it all up by zooming out to see the one core lesson that makes everything else just click.
All right, first things first, we have to be on the same page about our foundation. In the world of vSphere, what is a virtual machine, really?
At its heart, it's that classic computer inside a computer idea. But it's so much more than that. It's a complete, totally self-contained system. It has its own virtual CPUs, its own memory, its own disks, and it's all just borrowing power from the physical server it lives on.
Okay, now that we know what it is, let's get to the really fun part, actually making one. How do we go from just an idea, a blueprint, to a real running machine?
Well, the first thing you got to realize is that it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. You've got 4 totally different ways to do this, and picking the right one is everything. It all depends on your goal. Do you need a unique, custom-built machine, a quick copy of an existing one, a whole fleet of standardized servers, or are you trying to bring an old physical box into the virtual world? So if you're building from the ground up, the new VM Wizard is basically your best friend. It holds your hand step by step through all the big decisions, what to name it, where it's going to live, and what its hardware guts will look like. And a really key decision here is compatibility. That VM version you pick, that's going to decide what cool features you can use later on.
This table right here, this is your cheat sheet. Seriously, building a unique development server? Start from scratch. Easy. Need 5 more web servers identical to the one you just configured? Just clone it. Deploying your company's standard gold image. Well, that's what templates were literally invented for.
This really gets to the heart of the difference. Think of it like this. Cloning is tactical. It's like using a photocopier for a quick one-off duplicate. Templates are strategic. That's like having a printing press for consistency and scale, especially when you use guest customization to automatically give each new VM its own unique identity. Okay, now this is where things get really practical. For customization to even work, having VMware tools installed is a total must-have. No exceptions. But check out those last 2 lines. Those are the exact log file paths you'll need when, and let's be real, it's when, not if, a customization goes sideways. This is pure in-the-trenches troubleshooting gold right here.
All right, let's move on to the next stage. Once your VM is up and running, the real work begins, fine-tuning its performance. It's time to start turning the dials and flipping the switches on its virtual hardware.
And one of the most powerful dials you have is CPU hot plug. Just imagine, your application is suddenly getting hammered with traffic. If you were smart and enabled this feature beforehand, you can literally add more virtual CPUs while it's running. No reboot, no downtime. It's an absolute game changer for dealing with those unexpected spikes. Now for networking, you've got a big performance choice to make. The E1000, that's your trusty old workhorse. It's compatible with pretty much everything. But the VMX-Net3, that's the thoroughbred racehorse. It was designed from the ground up for vSphere, which means way higher speeds and less work for your CPU. Honestly, if your operating system supports it, VMX-Net3 is almost always the way to go. And hey, what VMX-Net3 does for your network, the Paravirtual SCSI adapter does for your storage. If you have any workload that's just constantly reading and writing to disk, think a busy database server, this is the controller you want. It's engineered to slash overhead and just push through as much data as possible. But, and this is a big but, all that power comes with some very strict rules. You absolutely need the right hardware version, and your guest OS has to support it. And look at these warnings. If you're using a lot of snapshots, you might not even see a performance boost. It's a powerful tool for sure, but you have to know its limitations inside and out. This quote right here points to one of the biggest gotchas in all of vSphere storage. It's talking about something called independent disks. When you set up a virtual disk this way, it gets completely ignored by snapshots. Forgetting that, well, that can have some pretty massive consequences for your backups. It's a critical detail you just have to know. Okay, so we've talked hardware. Now let's shift gears and look at the software tools you'll be using every single day for administration. This is your core toolkit. When you boil it all down, day-to-day management really rests on three absolute pillars. We're going to look at each one. First, the essential VMware tools. Second, the life-saving safety net that is snapshots. And third, how you can group things together with vApps.
Here's a situation I know you've been in. You need to apply a patch to a critical production VM. You're pretty sure it'll be fine, but there's that little voice in the back of your head. What if it's not? How do you protect yourself?
The answer is this simple 4-step safety dance. You take a snapshot. Bam! You've just frozen the entire state of that machine in time. Its memory, its disks, everything. It's your big red undo button. If that patch breaks everything, you just revert, and it's like it never even happened.
And what about when your application isn't just one machine? What if it's a web server, an app server, and a database, and they all have to work together? That is exactly what a vApp is for. It lets you wrap them all up in a single container, so you can power them on in the right order and manage them like they're one single thing.
Finally, let's pull way back from all the technical details and look at the single most important lesson that's hiding underneath everything we've talked about.
The whole world of vSphere is built on this fundamental tension. On one hand, you have the virtual machine, which is this beautiful, clean, perfect abstraction from the real hardware. But on the other hand, every single bit of its performance is completely dependent on the messy physical reality of the server it's running on. And that brings us to the real takeaway from all this. Being a great administrator isn't just about clicking buttons in the virtual world. It's about deeply understanding the interplay, that constant dance between the virtual and the physical. Knowing the steps to that dance is what separates a good admin from a truly great one.
So that leaves us with one final thought to take back with you. Now that you're thinking about this constant dance between the virtual world you manage and the physical world that powers it, how does that change how you're going to design and build things tomorrow?